Welcome to Align Christ-Centered Yoga. My name is Linda and I'll be guiding our practice today. My question for you today is, how comfortable are you going to God with all of your requests, no matter how big or small? I was drawn to this scripture passage in Job. Job has lost his family, he has lost his livelihood, he has lost his health, and he wants to confront God, but he is afraid to. And he says this: "He is not a mere mortal like me, that I might answer him, that we might confront each other in court. If only there were someone to mediate between us, someone to bring us together, someone to remove God's rod from me, so that his terror would frighten me no more. Then I would speak up without fear of him. But as it now stands with me, I cannot." Job wants to confront God, but he is afraid to. I'm going to take you to Paul's letter to Timothy. In the second letter to Timothy, Paul says this: "For there is one God and one mediator between God and mankind, the man Christ Jesus, who gave himself as a ransom for all people." Jesus is our mediator. I've been a professional mediator, and the role of the mediator is not to problem solve. It's not to bring a solution out of the problem. The role of the mediator is simply to help two parties understand each other better. So say, for example, that I have a child, an adult child, and an elderly parent. And the elderly parent says in the conversation, "I will never go to a nursing home." My role as the mediator might be to simply reflect that back. "You will never go to a nursing home." And the elderly parent may respond with, "No, I will never go to a nursing home." Or they might respond with, "I don't mean never, I mean not right now, not until." So in the same way, we sometimes can't articulate the cries of our hearts, but Jesus knows our heart and he presents that to the Father. And sometimes we don't understand the heart of God, but Jesus knows the heart of God and he brings that understanding to us. Jesus is our mediator. As we practice today, we're going to work on the strength of the inner thighs, the adductor muscles. And what adductors do is they come together. The adductor muscles move from the outside towards the center of the body. So today, I invite you to practice, to modify the practice, however you may need to do that. And here we go. Come to a comfortable seated position, maybe up on a blanket or a block. As you find your sitting bones settle in, maybe rocking a little bit side to side, front to back. I invite you to close your eyes and to let the day fade away. Let go of the to-do lists, any expectations that you have for the day, any expectations that you have for this practice. And give yourself permission to be fully present. Finding your breath, notice how you are breathing as you begin your practice today. The quality of breath, the pace of breath. Begin to deepen the breath, inhaling down the body and exhaling up. And can you breathe in and out through your nose? Can you create a little more space with that inhale? And invite the Holy Spirit to guide your thoughts, to guide your practice. Notice any sensations in the body, particularly in the hips and the legs. And give yourself permission to modify this practice as you move through it, meeting the needs of your body today. Take 2 more breaths here. The hands come down to the mat. And on that next inhale, raise the arms up and let the gaze follow the hands. And exhale as those hands come down to the mat. Again, just thinking about this adduction, this coming together as the hands press together, as the arms come down to the side. And 2 more times here. And as you're ready, bring those hips off the blanket or the block and bring the feet together, soles of the feet together. So if you are tight here like I am, maybe you keep those blocks and bring them underneath the legs. Find the sitting bones again, and then explore, where do you want the heels? The closer they are to your body, the more stretch you'll get. Can you find that place of tension without struggle? And then inhaling, begin to lengthen through the spine. Let the top of the head rise up. And if you want more stretch, maybe you use those forearms to guide the legs down a little bit. If you still want a little more, maybe you lean forward from the hips. Stay here for 3 more breaths. And just imagine these adductor muscles. Imagine them lengthening, softening, getting warmer. As you're ready, take your hands underneath your legs. Gently bring your knees together. Bring the feet forward. Go ahead and bounce the knees a little bit. And then walk the legs out wider. So windshield wiper the feet, bounce the knees. Find the sitting bones again. Maybe even just lift up and come down. Engage the muscles of the legs as you push the heels away, as you draw the quadriceps towards the hips. And then gently tilt the toes out just a little bit. Hinging again at the hip. I invite you to come forward to find your stretch. So as we begin to soften and lengthen these muscles, just notice how tight are you. And as we work through side lunges and squats, give yourself permission to be very aware of what's going on in those areas and to modify accordingly. I invite you to take 2 more breaths here. Gently press into the hands and rise up. Again, bring the legs together and bounce the knees, windshield wiper the feet, and meet me in table. So spread the fingers wide, distribute the weight, the base of each finger, of the first finger, pinky finger, each side of the wrist, a little bubble of air. And then use the muscles of the forearms as you draw those fingertips into the mat and towards the wrist. Press to the tops of the feet. Meet me in table. And for just a moment, imagine those inner thighs drawing up and towards each other. Taking 2 more deep breaths here, finding length in the spine, strength in the abdominals. And then begin to find cat as you exhale and the back rises to the sky. Cow as you inhale, hip points to the mat. And back and forth here 3 more times, connecting movement with breath, moving at your pace. Taking your time as you're ready, meet me back in table. Begin to feel the connection from hands to wrist, wrist to elbow and elbow to shoulders, shoulders to hip, hip to knee, knee to ankle, ankle to feet. One more deep breath here. Curling the toes underneath, draw the knees up and into the rib cage, push the fingertips away, let the head come down, shake your head out, no and yes. And begin to pedal through your feet, moving the hips side to side, noticing what's going on up and down the sides of the body, what's going on in the feet and the ankles. And then deep breath in, heels rise, and exhaling, heels come down. And draw the gaze forward and come into a plank. Draw the knees to the mat. Bring the hands forward. One more handprint. Come all the way down to the mat in a kneeling plank. And bring the forearms to the side. Gently come in and out of Sphinx a few times here. What do you notice? Come down one final time. This time, go ahead and round the shoulders slightly forward as you draw the muscles of the chest up. And then push the chest through the arms. Rotate those shoulder blades back and under. And meet me in Sphinx. Pressing through the tops of the feet. Begin to engage the legs. And once again, can you find those muscles of the quadriceps? Feel the muscles of the inner thighs drawing towards each other and up towards the center of the body. Exhaling, release. Hands to rib cage, come through table, tilting the hips. Tuck under and meet me in downward dog. I'm just still warming up. Let's go through that twice more. So come to your plank. Maybe you come all the way down to the mat from here. Maybe you come to your knees. Meet me in Sphinx. Rise through table and into downward dog. One more breath here in downward dog. Checking in, noticing. And one more time through that flow. From plank to the mat. Find your Sphinx. Rise into table. And meet me in down dog. Taking a deep breath in, let the right leg rise up to the sky. And drawing the gaze forward, bring that foot in between the hands. Let the back knee tap down and up. And then as you're ready, let that back knee come down to the mat, top of the foot to the mat. Toe heel that front foot. So my toes are slightly off the mat. My foot is angled forward. Begin to find the hip stretch here, dropping this back hip just a little bit. And then keeping this foot flat on the floor in the front, a little bit extra weight at the base of that big toe, take the right hand to the thigh and press the thigh in as the hand presses out and draw the shoulder up. Find breath. Push in with that leg. And release. Stay here, gently roll to the outside of the foot. And just let that knee come to the outside and stay here for a breath. Deep breath in, go ahead and toe heel that foot back to center. Raise that back leg, bring the front foot to the back, meet me in plank. And again, come down to the mat. Maybe this time finding a low cobra. Finding breath. And as you're ready, exhale down, hands to rib cage. Find your way back to downward facing dog. Check in, noticing right side compared to left. The feet, the legs, the sides of the body, the arms. Deep breath in, left leg rises high. Drawing the gaze forward, engage the abdominals. Float that foot all the way through. Tap that back knee down and up. Invite you to settle here. And as you're ready, toe heel that front foot off the mat. Find breath, lengthening through the spine, and press through the big toe. And then bring that left hand to the center of the thigh and press the thigh in towards the hand in towards the thigh, gently stacking shoulders. Maybe the gaze comes up to the ceiling. I invite you to take another breath here. Then bring the hand down to the center. One more inhale. As you exhale, maybe you gently roll out to the side of the foot and begin to find a stretch for that leg. As you're ready, release. Go ahead and toe heel that foot back, raise the back leg, let the hips float to the sky and bring that back foot to the front, meeting me in your first forward fold. And check in and just notice how it feels, right side compared to left, and shake your head out, no and yes. And hands to shins, rise up halfway and exhale down and press all the way through the feet. As you rise into extended mountain, bring those arms together. Stay here for just a moment. And as you press down with your feet, can you feel those inner thighs drawing towards each other and up? Push those arms up from underneath in the serratus muscles and feel those arms drawing towards each other as the hands press. Exhale, hands to heart. Pressing into that left foot, I invite you to take that right leg back into a lunge. Deep breath in, arms rise. Exhaling, hands to the thigh, gently bring the muscles of the legs towards the knee. Raise that back leg towards the sky. Micro bend the knee, little tiny stretch there in the psoas. Deep breath in, arms rise. As you settle here, imagine the inner thighs drawing towards each other and towards the center of the body. Can you engage the abdominals a little bit more? Taking the left hand to the small of the back, bring the right arm across and find a gentle twist. And the next inhale, arms rise up. Exhaling, hands to either side of the foot. Go ahead and bring the feet towards the front edge of the mat, the wide edge of the mat. And so in a wide stance, begin to find your forward fold here. And as you press through the feet, can you feel the inner thighs drawing towards each other and up? Maybe there's a little bit more pressure at the base of each big toe. And bring the hands forward and kind of find a downward facing dog here. And then as you're ready, go ahead and walk to the back edge of the mat. And bring the front foot to the back and meet me in plank. And from plank, come down to the mat. And find your back bend. And meet me in downward facing dog. Stay here for 2 breaths and check in. And drawing the gaze forward, bring the feet up and in between the hands. And find your forward fold. And hands to shins, rise up halfway. And exhale down. And inhale and bring those arms together and those hands together. And exhale, hands to heart. Stepping into the right leg, left leg comes back into lunge. Deep breath in, arms rise. Hands to thigh, gently nudge the muscles slightly towards the knee. Extend that back leg, micro bend, shoulders over hips, arms rise. Imagine the inner thighs drawing towards the center of that mat. Imagine the front heel moving towards the center and the back foot coming towards the center. One more breath here. Left hand to the small of the back, right arm comes across. I think I said that backwards, but you're coming across the opposite arm of that front leg. So you are twisting towards the inside of that front leg. Then as you're ready, come back to lunge. Exhale, hands down to either side of the foot. Pivot the feet towards the front. Stay here. Find your forward fold. And press into your hands. Walk your hands back. Bring your feet in just a little bit. Keep the feet angled. Bring knees over ankles as you drop hips, thighs parallel to the ground. Hands to thighs. Rise up. So here in this plie, knees are over the ankles. Can you tuck the hips a little bit to bring those knees over the ankles so that they're not tilting in? Take a nice deep breath here. Maybe the arms come into cactus. And then deep breath in, rise and draw those legs together. And exhale and squat. And 2 more times here. And 1 more time. And then rise up, toes point forward, hands to hip crease. Hinge at the hips as you forward fold. Shake your head out, no and yes. Pivot to the front of the mat. Bring that front leg to the back. Meet me in plank. From your plank, come down to the mat. Begin to find your flow, your back bend, making your way into downward facing dog. And check in. So having been through that lunge sequence on both sides, how do the legs feel? How has downward dog changed since you started today? How is the breath moving through your body? Drawing the gaze forward, bring the feet up and in between the hands, meeting me in forward fold. And hands to shins, rise up halfway, and exhaling, come down, and pressing through the feet, rise all the way up, palms together. And exhale, hands to heart. Find breath. What do you notice? Stay here for 2 more breaths. Slowing the heart rate down, noticing the way that the feet have connected to the mat, the response of the body to your flow. Inhaling, arms rise, extended mountain as those arms press up. Hands to heart, step into that left foot, bring that right leg back in a lunge. Let the arms rise. Hands to heart, I invite you to hinge forward at the hips and find your twist here. So as you find your twist, can you create some traction as that thigh presses into the arm into the thigh? And can you imagine the inner thighs drawing towards each other? And can you imagine the heel drawing back, that back foot drawing forward, creating an imaginary wrinkle in your mat? Exhale, let the hands stay down. Go ahead and pivot. Wide legs facing the side. Go ahead and turn the toes out, about a 45-degree angle. Gently begin to lunge side to side. So as you lunge, can you keep the knees tracking towards the center of that foot? And just check in and notice the response of the legs. And go ahead and bring your hand, pinky finger, towards the inside of that foot. Begin to find your work here. So maybe you'd like a little more challenge and that extended foot flexes. Maybe you'd like a little more challenge and this front heel lifts. Or maybe not, right? What's right for you today, right now? And come to center. Release side to side. Knee over the ankle, come to the back foot. So this is your right leg probably. And same thing here. Can you create a little bit of traction? Leg against arm, arm against leg. Maybe you want a little more work as that foot flexes or the front heel lifts. And as you're ready, hands at center, lunge side to side. And pivot towards the back edge of the mat. And go ahead and bring that front foot to the back, meeting me in plank. And from plank, find your flow. Find your back bend. Find your way back to downward facing dog. And check in. One more breath here. Drawing the gaze forward, bring one foot in between your hands and then the other. Meet me in forward fold. And hands to shins, rise up halfway. Exhale down. Come all the way up. Palms together, exhale, hands to heart. Go ahead and step your feet out wide here. Toes angled slightly forward, forward fold. Bring the pinky fingers to the base of the toes. Begin to bend the knees and drop your hips. And maybe you begin to find a low yoga squat. Arms between the legs, pressing those legs wide, hands to heart. Find the traction. Engage those adductor muscles. Tuck the hips. So you're using your abductor muscles, the abductor muscles, as those legs come apart from each other. And then as you're ready, hands to the mat. And to straighten out those legs. Walk the feet in, hip width apart. Hands to shins, rise up halfway, exhale down. Come all the way up to that mountain pose. Extended mountain, arms rising. Exhaling, hands to heart. Find breath. I invite you to stay here for one more breath. Stepping into the right foot, left leg back, meet me in lunge. Taking a deep breath in, let the arms rise, hands to heart, hinge at the hips. Find your twist. And again, pressing the arm into the leg and the leg into the arm, but simultaneously feeling those adductor muscles, those inner thighs drawing towards each other and up. And exhale down and pivot to the wide edge of the mat. Go ahead and take those legs, the feet angled slightly out. And this time, a different kind of lunge. You can go back to what we did before, or you can lift your heel and drop into it, side to side here. So my hips are dropping into my heel. I think I said drop your heel, but drop your hips into your heel. The heel will rise. And maybe you come over to the front leg. And maybe this is where you stay and you're supported with your hands, or maybe the body rises and you find balance as well. And as you're ready, release. And come over to the other side. And can you do it on this side as well? And just notice the difference from one side to the other. Maybe it's easier to balance on one side. Maybe the pose is completely different on one side. As you're ready, release. And pivot back to the front of the mat and bring that back foot to the front and meet me in forward fold. And hands to shins, rise up halfway and exhale down and come all the way up, extended mountain. Hands to heart. And step your feet out wide. So use those hip muscles. Go ahead and forward fold, hands down. And begin to drop the hips. Adjust the feet however you need to. I find my pinky finger right at the base of my big toes there. Begin to straighten up the spine, hands to heart. Find breath. What do you notice? As you're ready, hands to the mat. Gently straighten out the legs. Go ahead and walk those feet in. Hands to shins, rise up halfway. Exhale down, come all the way up, mountain pose. And hands to heart. And I invite you to stay here and check in for 3 breaths. How does the body feel? What's the temperature of the body? How fast is the heart beating? What's your quality of breath? On that next inhale, arms rise high. Exhaling, meet me in forward fold. And hands to shins, come up halfway. And exhale down and one leg back and then the other and meet me in plank. But this time, come down to your knees and child to table twice. And today I invite you to take your big toes together and your knees just a little bit wide and come back into your child's pose here, and then make any adjustments that you need to make for comfort. Notice where there is stretch. Notice where there is release. Notice where there is tension. Begin again to feel connection. Hands to wrists and wrists to elbows, elbows to shoulders and shoulders to hips, hips to knees and knees to feet. Feel the way the breath moves through the body. Connected with the breath of the Spirit of God, to our mediator, Jesus, to our Father in heaven, three in one God, united. As you're ready, gently press into your hands and rise up. Bring your feet back or sit back and bring your feet forward. Bring your feet wide and gently drop your knees side to side. Then as you're ready, come on to your back. So I invite you to take your feet wide and again, just drop your knees side to side here. It's the same thing you were just doing, but now, on your back instead of sitting. And as you're ready, just let those knees drop over to the right. And then let that left hand come down to your side towards your hip. And maybe you leave it there, or maybe you raise it up and overhead and find as much length as you can from fingertips all the way to that knee. And find that stretch in the outside of the leg. And as you're ready, bring the arm out to the side and come to center. This time, just bring both knees in towards each other. Take a breath there. And then bring the knees down to the other side. So again, this lower body twist. And maybe that right hand comes down to the hip, and maybe it comes up and over and extends, and you reach fingertips to knees. And find breath. And stay here for 2 more breaths. And as you're ready, bring the arms out and gently bring the legs up and bring the knees together. And then toe heel the feet in and bring hands to knees. Gently draw the knees into the rib cage and away, back and forth here. And then as you're ready, bring the feet to the mat, soles of the feet together, arms at your side. And settle here for a few breaths, just finding release. Softening the muscles of the face, the jaw, the muscles of the chest and the abdominals. The inner thigh, the arms. And then as you're ready, bring those hands underneath your legs and gently bring the knees up. And extend the legs long and find Shavasana. And as you settle into Shavasana, offer up the cries of your heart, whatever it is that you want to share with God. And maybe it's really deep, and maybe it's something that you haven't been ready to say to him for a long time. But offering it up with the confidence that Jesus is your mediator, and that through him you'll be united with the Father. I invite you to stay here a little longer if you can. If you need to get on with your day, gently begin to bring movement back. Wiggling fingers and toes, rotating wrists and ankles, turning your head side to side. And that next inhale, bring arms up and overhead and stretch as long as you can. And as you're ready, bend your knees and roll over onto your side, supporting your head with your arm. And that next breath in, press into your hands and rise up to sitting. Again, just finding a comfortable seated position, finding your sitting bones. Checking in, body, mind, and soul, noticing what has changed since you came to the mat today. Noticing also what has stayed the same, accepting it as it is. Taking a deep breath in, let arms rise up and overhead, palms together, and exhaling, hands to heart, bowing your head, joining me in prayer. Jesus, we are so grateful that you went to the cross for us, that you are our mediator. We thank you that through you we are one with the Father, that we have nothing to fear, and that we are always and forever with you. It is in your name that we pray. Amen. Thank you for joining me today.